another Ants on a Rock video. Welcome to the Ant Corner. An update on all my colonies. There's been lots of changes this week. So these two here, one's on the left here is the Imposters in tubs and tubes set up within an Outworld as well for extra barrier protection. They refused to move into a new test tube, so their old test tube, the one with the red, isn't actually that clean, but there is fresh water in the other test tube if they want it. There's also honey water and a mealworm that I've just fed to each one of my colonies. In this one here we have the rebels. Both of these colonies are Lasius niger. Again, I've just fed a mealworm. Can't actually see much going on in there at the moment. Again, this is within another Outworld just for extra barrier protection, as I noticed they were actually small enough to get through the hinges in that little box. Next on to my Polyrhachis dives, the Moorfolk. Again, I've just fed a mealworm and they seem to be going to town on it. Now I've only got about 50 workers, so we only see about 5 maximum foraging at a time, which is quite funny really. You only see about 1/10 of the workforce. And I find this with most colonies in early stages. You only see about 1/10 of the workforce, and the rest is probably in the nest back here under the driftwood behind the jug. As you can see, they've built up quite a considerable construction over the front of it, and now they've done that, I feel they've started foraging more often with larger numbers. So next you can see this thermometer here goes down to the side here. I've got another test tube. This is my Mesobarbarus. She was in a box on the shelf above, but I decided with all the movement going on at the moment, it's probably better to keep her down there. There's heat mats and stuff, and I know that's a constant temperature there, so she's happy. Next, the shelf above, we have the Red Army. This Outworld will be cleaned over the next day or so. As you can see, it's quite dirty with residue and muck and grime. Again, they've got a mealworm, honey water, fresh water. They've got a new test tube there to move into if they decide, because this test tube again has got quite dirty, but I expect they'll be reluctant to move. I've just moved the Camponotus hercularis, the Olympians, into this Outworld with their test tube. I'm in the middle of sorting it out right now. As you can see, one of the workers has come out and started scouting about, which is really cool. They're one of my favourite types of ants, mainly because of their size and strength. They're also polymorphic. These are some of the smallest workers, and as you can see, they're massive. When they get their large majors, they are huge, absolutely massive, and really interesting and cool to look at. So I'm just going to chuck some sphagnum moss and some stones in there for them in a second. I'll show you what happens then. Back to the Red Army. As you can see, they are enjoying their worm, quite a few of them foraging. They're actually really active, one of my more active colonies. There's always some in the Outworld, always some in what I like to call the pub. So back to the Olympians now. As you can see, I've put a lot of sphagnum moss in and some large stones around the entrance of their test tube. I like to do this if I do a setup like this, because they tend to move things to cover the entrance of the test tube and make themselves feel more secure. I think this is the most natural way to do it, and them doing it themselves, they know they're going to be happy. They've got it how they like it. It's a little bit moist with the sphagnum moss, so it's really given them a great environment that they should be happy with and thrive in. And for Camponotus hercularis, that's really quite important, because they are a really slow growing species anyways, so any extra help I can give them, I want to give them. As you can see here, there is a worker instantly started to move sphagnum moss towards the front of the test tube. Sorry for the shaky camera footage. But within a second or so, more and more workers start pouring out. I've actually only got 5 workers and a queen at the moment, so the colony is very, very small and very young. But like I said, I think this gives them the most naturalistic way to come out and forage on their own terms when they want to. As you can see by the second worker coming out, they are really super strong. I mean, I know ants are strong anyways, but the size of this piece of sphagnum moss compared to the ant, and taking it uphill against other objects, it really is amazing to watch how they construct their homes and nests. And I've just realised I've been saying mealworm instead of Mario worm. I've actually been feeding Mario worms, which are slightly bigger than mealworms. So for continuity's sake, I'm going to carry on and say I've been feeding mealworms, but we all know they're Mario worms. Whatever, mealworms. I really do find these ants fascinating. As you can see, the third one's just starting to come out now. And these two are moving about. I do fully expect they will move every single piece of sphagnum moss in here up to the front of their test tube, and that's fine. That's exactly what I want. I haven't given them ample amounts, so I won't lose them completely under the front of it. I've just given them enough to make themselves comfortable. Again, the sheer size of these ants is absolutely insane. They make my Polyrhachis dives look small. On to the next corner. So here we've actually got no ants in here at the minute. This is a bioactive terrarium I have ready for an ant colony to move into, probably the rebels when they're a little bit larger, but we'll leave that alone for now. Ignore this one because that's what I've just removed from the Olympians. In here we have the Conquerors. Again, the test tube is within the Outworld, and I have seen them forage quite a lot. They've been very, very active, and when I last checked on them, they had loads of pupa as well as larvae and eggs. I have seen them venture all the way into the nest, but they don't seem that bothered by it yet, which is fine. I have no need to rush a move. They can grow up in their test tube, and when it's absolutely teeming, I will move them then. Ignore that shelf, that's just my isopods and springtail cultivations. Here we have the Shaolin, my other European fire ants. Now, they were in a fairly dirty, mouldy test tube, so I attached it to this ant hut nest, and they moved in pretty easily actually overnight. As you can see, there's a fair few in there. They do actually have some brood and stuff, but you can't really make it out in this. I know there's some larvae in the other one as well, so I'm not even going to open that. I haven't seen much foraging activity over the last day or so since they all retreated back into the nest, but on their initial move I did see them venturing into the Outworld. So this was their test tube. It is grim, black, absolutely horrible. I had to get them out, so I literally tilted it on a slight angle and removed the red film. I wouldn't normally do this, but it was in a shaded location anyways. And as you can see here, the queen has been out and about drinking some fresh water, so she is fine. And that's all my ant colonies for now, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon for all my future updates, and I'll see you again, ant fans.